Hey, Podnutzians, welcome to Linux for the Rest of Us, episode 222. I am Door Geek, owner-operator of Podnutz.com. This is a Linux show where we try to cover the entire gambit from noob content to advanced user content, but we try to keep it all in scope for the new user to understand. If I say things that you consider incorrect, remember sometimes I say things merely to help the new user understand. It's a question of getting people over that hump. If you think I'm saying something completely incorrect, do not hesitate to let me know. Podnutz at linuxfortherestofus.com. I will first and foremost say I do not know everything. I purposefully like getting corrected sometimes, I'll just say. It reminds me, A, people are listening. Two, people smarter than me are listening. But C, it just reminds me that I always need room to improve and get better. First thing we're going to mention on this show is a different kind of link. And it's one of those links filled with lots of seriousness, no matter how you look at it. Really, I can say with a lot of confidence, really good friend of mine, Eric Ardini. He's hosted Podnutz Daily. He's been on Podnutz, the tech show. He's been on, I believe, the Great Tech Debate. He's been on... he helped start the Mini PC show up. He's been on the Makers, and he's been on Android App Addicts, many shows. Right now, he has stage 3 liver cancer. They say it's a very fast-moving cancer. Transplant is not an option. It's at a advanced rate, and he is a government employee. I can tell you, his life insurance is not great. His life insurance is not grand. He has a wife and 2 kids that we're trying to just help try to make their future a little bit more comfortable. So there's a GoFundMe link in the notes to Eric's calls, is what I'm going to say. Right now, there's been 409 shares. There's been 37 people in 2 days contribute $3,120. I definitely noticed some names on the list. Joe Cotta, Mark Surratt, Kevin McLaughlin, Sir Kevin McLaughlin. You might not be watching the video, but I just saluted you because you're kind of the man. There's definitely others on here. Trying to go back in time. Gary Howe, thank you very much. I don't know if he listens to this show or not, but I know he's a really nice guy. David Kennedy, wow, that's all I gotta say. David Kennedy, if you listen to this show, I doubt it, but if you do, you're the man. I definitely owe you a beer, a hug, and a steak dinner. Chuck Green, Annoyance, Rhino, I love you, man. Thank you for all the support. Thank you very much for supporting Eric. Zoke is one of the smartest and nicest guys I know, but I'm pretty sure if he wanted to, he could get inside of your network without you knowing it, kind of thing. He's just that kind of guy. MRP Matthew from MRP Tech Podcast, thank you very much. MRP is fantastic podcast that I am going to reference. It is on the Podnutz Network. I am going to reference it in this show. So if you can afford anything, I will definitely ask you, please contribute, and the sooner the better, just for trending purposes. The more contributions we get sooner, the more likely this is going to be considered a trending campaign, and hopefully get a little bit more eyeballs than just the normal campaign. It's just a simple matter of just helping his family have one less thing to stress about here in the short-term future. Eric, if you're listening to this, you know I love you, man. Me and him were down at the Podfest Multimedia Expo, which I missed this year, and I'm genuinely ashamed that I missed it this year because the owner-operator of the event called me up. Coordinators of conferences never have free time, so for him to call me up, that to me was odd. Like, they don't have any time to call anybody up, but he called me up. A lot of things were going on with financially with me. A lot of things were going on with kids, with wife. It just really, and I didn't plan correctly. So I really do blame myself ultimately, and he offered me discount on top of discount on top of discount, airfare, hotel room, and I still couldn't make it. But next year, it's going to happen because that's the last event I went where I was with Eric, and I had a really good time, mostly because of him. Um, so if you can help and support those who support you, I can tell you right now, few people have supported Podnutz more than Eric Ardini. I'm pretty sure he's been on more shows than anybody, excluding Steve Turbino and myself. And I will say he did say, I think publicly at one point in time, his dream when he was a kid was to be like a radio type DJ on the air personality. And he does, and he did say, I'm pretty sure that Podnutz basically gave him that and more. Um, so this is not a rich network uh, filled with ads and promotions and taking all this money from all these different people. Podnutz gave what Podnutz could afford to give, and I'm going to ask now for everyone who has hesitated to support this network in the past. Please go support this Go Fund Me campaign. And if you are supporting Podnutz right now, I ask you suspend your Podnutz donations and instead support Eric Ardini. Literally, I can say this with confidence. Every single dollar will help. And I'm sorry to start off on such a serious note, but I don't know how much longer I'm going to have to try to help Eric out. So I want to try to help him out as much as possible right now. And my synergy appears to stop working. So let me quit my synergy and start it back up. And there you go. Okay. Okay. Next link I want to talk about is we asked for it. We wanted it. We got it. We wanted gaming on Linux. We wanted Linux to be everywhere. We wanted Linux to run everything. Well, I'll just put it like this. You ever heard of the Monkey's Paw? Monkey's Paw was a short story where there was a monkey's forearm and hand that was carved off and stuffed, and it was magical. And you would make a wish, and when you made a wish, the finger would curl down, so you knew how many wishes you had. But every time you made a wish, something would turn out horribly bad. Like you would say, I want to be a millionaire. And then the finger would go down. And then the next morning when you woke up, you would have helicopters, cars, and everything, but you would have no legs because you became a millionaire in a lawsuit against the corporation where you got your legs cut off. And then you would make another wish trying to fix that, and then something else would go wrong and something else would go wrong. Well, that is how I feel about this in the world of Linux. Okay, if you haven't heard it yet, Google Stadia, kind of like stadium, but Stadia, Stadia. Long story short, it's running on Linux. Long story short, it's all in the cloud. Long story short, you can run it on your Linux desktop. How can this be bad? I say, how can this be bad? Well, I'll put it like this. First, I'll talk about it in the positive aspects of it. Ubiquitous gaming on multiple platforms with synchronized save states. But not only saved states, you can literally easily save a state and then share it out to the public. This is a very hyper YouTube focused gaming thing. If you never use YouTube, it's not going to be easy to use this gaming system. Its intent is for people to create games, cooperate with games on YouTube, and publish game videos on YouTube. That's the real ultimate goal for this. So the logic is you in your Android phone or your tablet or Mac desktop or Linux laptop or Windows tablet or anything like that, or smart TV or Chromecast enabled TV or home theater computer type TV, you can simply launch a game. It's going to stream from the cloud. It's going to load in 5 seconds, blah, 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 blah. Unless, of course, you have horrible internet access or you have no internet access, then it won't load at all. But I digress. So you'll be able to launch these games and it will just work. In air quotes, it will just work. So you don't need a $2,000 computer. You don't need any of these high-end systems. You don't need a $1,500 video card, and it will quote-unquote just work. In fact, they say you don't even really need hardware acceleration because at least on the desktop and laptop, it's all running on the Chrome browser, which is in itself becoming a isolated, containerized operating system. Okay? Here's the bad thing. It's not going to run in Firefox. I can tell you that. It's not going to run in anything Firefox. It looks like it will run on Android via the YouTube app. I doubt it will run on anything iOS, like the iPhones or anything like that. On a Linux phone, I don't know. I don't know, considering we don't even have real Linux phones to play with yet. The downside is, more than likely, I'm going to go out on a limb and say, you will never own a game. You will never, ever, ever own a game on this system. You obviously will never own a physical media for the game. And if we've learned anything in using Linux is if you don't have root, ta-da, you don't know who does. Well, in this time, we do. It's Google who has root. So anytime they want to take a game away, they're going to be able to take it away. You're never going to be able to buy a game is what I'm going to say. You'll only be able to rent a game. You'll be able to rent it in probably 3 or 6 months increments. I'm pretty sure they will never let you buy a game outright and own it in air quotes forever. You're going to have to keep up a subscription of some type, and you're going to have a connection. They insist nothing is running locally. This is all on the cloud. So if you have really poor connection or you have no connection, no game for you. You're not going to be able to play it, which is going to isolate a lot of people. I'll just say that. A lot of people who live in the country, a lot of people who live in the sticks, a lot of people that just can't afford a super high speed connection. A lot of people are going to come up to bandwidth limits, to where you're going to have data caps. You're not going to be able to play stuff. So we're getting all this stuff we wanted. We wanted games ecosystems that were running on Linux. We wanted games that, the whole ecosystem was fair about running on my local Linux system. Hypothetically, anything that can run on a Windows desktop through this system, I'll be able to run on my Linux laptop as well. I'll be able to run the exact same games. And that's unbelievable fairness. That's equity amongst platforms. But the equal part is we as users have no freedoms. I can see in a generation or whatever where the idea of owning a physical cartridge or a disc that you stick into a system to play a game, how quaint. That's like riding a horse. That's like cooking your food over an open flame. That's like dying from smallpox. Oh, wait. Yeah. So it's going to go away. I'm afraid to say it. It's going to go away. It's just a question of when. How quick? Is this it? I think this might be it. We've seen this before. We've seen this multiple years back with stuff like OnLive promising streaming services. But I'm also sure using the Amazon methodology, Google can take a loss or a hit for 3+ years of offering this at a discounted service, spending too much on the back end, just to annihilate other competitors or to bring them in to their ecosystem. I'm pretty sure if this is at all successful, you're going to be able to load a Stadia client on Xbox, PS4, Nintendo Switch as well. It wouldn't shock me if Xbox will allow you to do it really quick, is what I'm going to say. Microsoft is going with a pure digital only console here very soon. So it looks like either this is going to be a huge, colossal flop, just like OnLive, just like the other systems, or Google has thought about this in the long run, and it's going to literally change the game. They're also going to have their own in-house development shop, aka they're going to be able to develop games that are going to be able to showcase the unique ability of this gaming system. Okay, here's how this really could, I think, change games. Right now, because of the latency, because of the physical constraints of me having a console, then connecting that console up to my network, and then my network going up to a server farm where the game's hosted. Okay, I have certain content that's local, I have certain content that's in the cloud. There's latency between my controller and the system and the server, and then the server to where the other people are at, or I'm sorry, to where the other people's servers are at, because more than likely they're split too, and then from their servers down to their system, and then their system down to their controller. They're reining in the consoles and the servers into a single ecosystem. So what that means is from console to console to virtual console to virtual console. So me playing somebody in Ireland, it's not my local console connecting to their local console. It's my data center connecting to their data center, which are closer together, which is going to enable a couple things. One, it's going to enable streaming and sharing of the video directly to the cloud with zero loss and zero performance hit. That matters to a lot of people right now, not to me. But the other thing it's going to enable is because those nodes are so much closer together, because those nodes are so much closer, the latency will be so much less. Instead of having games with 100 people flying down to land on an island, there's no reason why you can't have an island with 10,000 players on it, because they're all going to be basically on the same farm with all the processing going on locally to that farm, which will mean the experience will be equal for everybody. As long as we all have good connections, we don't have to worry about, is my console, going slower than your PC kind of methodology kind of thing. So you're going to be able to expand games like that. You're also going to be able to, with the exact same processing power, split screen my game and show me even screens of 4 to 5 other players all at the same time with using zero additional bandwidth, because it's all the same bandwidth. It's just the screen now. My screen is smaller and the other screens are put in its place. So the dynamic of how games are designed, the dynamic of how games can interact, how players can interact is changing. The other way this is going to change is hypothetically, and I can only use old world references for this. So if you don't know classic games, you might as well fast forward a couple minutes, okay? Hypothetically, this system is going to play old school Legend of Zelda, original NES game, okay? I can be playing the game, okay? And if the game is coded right, if the game is coded for Stadia, and it isn't just ported to them, I can be, let's say, getting ready to enter Dungeon 8, and I can hit a button. And when I hit that button, it creates a state that you, watching the YouTube video, can click, and in 5 seconds, you're instantly loaded to the exact same pixel-perfect position I'm in, with the exact same inventory I already have, and with the history I had in that video game. So you're going to be able to deep link into games instantaneously and share experiences, is what I'm going to say. The other thing you'll be able to do is, hypothetically, we're playing a basketball game, okay? I can literally start a game, click a button, and then 9 other people can join in, and then they can even have a queue to where we're like halfway through the second quarter, and I can say, okay, guys, now let's switch out the players, and there can be a queue of 9 other people or 20 other people. And then when those 9 people who are playing back out and I'm still in the game, the next 9 people in line will automatically join the game. So there's literally like the old school putting a quarter on top of the cabinet to play next kind of methodology banked into this system. So this is literally trying to take gaming and the social stuff going on with YouTube and mixing it together. But wait, there's more. If you get their special design controller, it doesn't connect to your local computer. it has a Wi-Fi connection, so it basically goes directly out to the internet, thus reducing at least some lag. But here's the gimmick. There's two special buttons on the controller. One button will tell the cloud to start to screen capture. Again, perfect, pristine screen captures with no additional $300 hardware connected to your console and with zero effect on your game's performance because it's all up there. It ain't down here. The second button is the real interesting button. It's a Google Assistant button. So we're going to once again say we're playing The Legend of Zelda on NES. We can simply say, hit the button and say, where is the entrance to Dungeon 8? And it will then pop up, bump out, split screen view, start and load a YouTube video showing you where is the entrance to Dungeon 8. Thus doing much more hand holding without having to jump out, pull up your phone, do a search or whatever. You'll be able to do it all in the same game. Now that kind of experience is going to allow for people to, I don't want to say do things easier, simpler, quicker, but less friction, which is going to basically enable game developers to not worry about making games too complicated, is my logic. I'm afraid this is going to change games forever. I'm afraid this is going to move the flagpole into a much less freedom respecting area of gaming. Games didn't really respect freedom. Okay. And it doesn't look like it's getting any better with this. The enjoyment factor might go up. The enjoyment factor might go up for people who can't afford a $300 console, but you can afford, a $100 phone, and this might work, or $150 tablet. This might work, or a $200 Chromebook, so the kid can do schoolwork and hey, at the same time, maybe he can do some gaming. We have no idea how much this is going to cost. I'm going to take a guess and say it's going to be wrapped in with YouTube Premium, at least in the beginning. If they're smart, I honestly think they're going to do like 3 months free, because once they get you, they got you. I can see them offering basically like a tiered service, 15 to 20 to 25 bucks a month, where you'll basically get free access to every game up to a certain limit. And then for the remainder of the game, you're going to have to pay extra money. And you're only going to be renting it for like 3 months or 6 months at a time to get the full game experience. I would say this would be interested. Being a parent, this is going to affect me because my kids both love watching what I consider to be non-intelligent people sit on YouTube and play games. Now, if they can be able to sit on YouTube, watch these non-intelligent people play a game, and then click a button and play the exact game that those people were playing seamlessly, without any installation, without any hesitation, without any worrying about, Dad, can I buy this game kind of thing, they're going to be hooked. They're going to be hooked. They're going to be hooked really hard and really viciously is the best and worst way I can put it. I mean, yeah, I think it's going to be pretty hard for my kids not to say yes to this and jump on it completely. Okay, next link I want to bring up, it just reminds me that not every distribution is huge, gargantuan, gigabytes and gigabytes of downloads with huge, fluffy, full-featured, ballistically heavy, composited desktops, which I can't stand any of the new desktops, basically. I think they're all too heavy. I think they all put beauty over function. They all put form over function. I put function over form. I know that's just me, but a beautiful desktop never helped me get anything done. A functional, useful, light, efficient desktop helps me get stuff done. There's a link here on Make Use Of, which I haven't really been on Make Use Of in a long time. They have just as many disgusting ads as every other website. But I'll say, if you were able to, use like a magical plugin and get rid of all the ads, I think it would actually be a pretty decent website. Okay, first thing they do is they suggest that you download Rufus, I believe it is, to create a bootable flash drive of these distributions. I'll say I had good luck with Etcher.io. It has been bought by somebody else, and it's now a slightly different application with like a weird ad that happens once in a while, but it's still a really good, useful tool, I want to say. So they show you how to use Rufus. Etcher, they don't even need to show you how to use it. It's that easy. But if you're on Windows and you want to use Rufus, they tell you how to do it. First distribution on their lighter list is Archbang. Archbang has been around for a good while, and I will tell you, Archbang is one of the best combinations of lightness, flexibility, stability, and compatibility. There's a lot of different things you can get in a light desktop besides just speed. Some people sacrifice stability for cutting edge. Archbang definitely got its name because it blew up a lot. Well, it's actually quite stable now, and it does offer you stable software without it being old software, is what I'll say. It isn't the freshest cutting edge stuff, but it is pretty good. Next one on their list, of course, damn small Linux, DSL Linux. One of the old faithful tiny distributions. I believe at one point in time it literally would fit on a 1.44 floppy disk. The icon, the save icon kids, one of them. It is definitely bigger now, but I want to say now it's 50 megs or 50 megs. So it is not teeny tiny anymore, but it is definitely still small. This next one reminded me almost of like Mac-like desktop is what I'm going to say, which is an insult to most people. Oh wait, no, that's just me. But I'll say this: it is one of the lighter desktops that I can see having some visual appeal. I don't know about functionality. I believe this is called Elive, ELIVE. Has a nice dock bar at the bottom. Looks pretty dynamic. More than likely very customizable as well. It looks, is what I'm going to say, fun to use, but I don't know about completely useful to run. After that, Porteous. Porteous has been around a long time. Porteous has a menu structure that's more similar to the old GNOME 2. So the interface looks, I would say, slightly dated, but it actually was pretty useful. I did load it up in a VM about a week ago, and it ran fine. Puppy Linux is on the list as well. This is the old faithful. This is the one that a certain segment of the people absolutely love and another segment absolutely hates. And it's all because when you boot up, you are root. You are not a user who has to type in a password, but you are root, which means it's very easy to do damaging things to your operating system. If you only have one computer and you're new to Linux and you install Linux on that one computer, do not make it Puppy Linux, is the logic. If you have two computers and you want to install Linux on one of them and you want to play around, feel free, install Puppy Linux. Just be prepared to install something else if you destroy the operating system, because it's definitely possible because you're root. The real reason I brought this is because on this list, they actually have SliTaz. SliTaz. Now, when you go up to the top and let me see, Lori Kaufman. First off, you have a fantastic last name. Kaufman is a great name. And you promote SliTaz, Laurie, so you get a fist bump from me if we ever meet. SliTaz to me is a glorious example of what you can get if you disregard everything that came before you and how things were done, and you decide to try to do stuff on your own, is what I'm going to say. Thus, not everything is perfectly clean. Not everything is perfectly neat. Not everything will perfectly work. But if you use this distro even for a week, even as a second distro, you will learn more about how the basics of Linux works, I believe, than a lot of other distributions. Of course, you're going to learn a lot more if you do your Linux from scratch, or your Slackware, or any system like that. You'll definitely learn more. But here's the thing about SliTaz. This is a package-based system, which basically means you have to find tar gzip files for the applications, and you basically have to build everything from source when you install it. You can use, I want to say it was not the alien command, but there was another command you could run where you could convert deb files into the correct packages. But you never know when you go to install something if it's going to work or not. There is a limited number of packages that you can download and install through their interface. Hypothetically, the normal distribution will have something like 30,000 packages you can install. They might have 3,000 in SliTaz. But certain things in SliTaz, like the admin panel, is to me an example of how to do things right. The quick and speediness of how fast this thing boots and you can get into a system is another example of how to do things right. If you are a true minimalist who likes handcrafting, small batching, locally sourcing, organically grown, range free in your operating system, but you don't want to do it completely from scratch, you can get a lot done with SliTaz, and you will have to learn a little bit in that trek to create this. But I will tell you everything I learned from SliTaz, I used it for a good 6 months. It made me understand, I felt much greater, how things like OpenSUSE was different from Red Hat, how CentOS and Scientific Linux, were a little bit different. How Debian stable, Debian testing, Ubuntu, how they were all a little bit different. How Peppermint, how Linux Mint, how they were actually different. And it was because sometimes I had to go into SliTaz and go a little bit deeper than just creating source, and I had to create my own symbolic links to libraries and things like that just to get things working. But I learned a lot. I did enjoy the fact that I could boot up the system and it would literally boot to the login screen typically in like a second and a half, 2 seconds. And this was off of something like the EEE kind of hardware, very low end hardware. But big props to Laurie for SliTaz. Then they talk about WattOS is bottom on the list. But this to me is a really, really good list. And the real reason I'm bringing this list up is because a good friend, Matt over at MRP Tech Podcast on Podnutz Network, he is starting to do basically a Linux lug. It's not like the Linux Lugcast where everyone gets online and listens to 2 hours of talking, is what I'm going to say, to be between guys like 5150, Honky Magoo, and Joe, and no. This is a lug where it's basically just a Discord channel where people go in and they try things and they talk about it in there. And then if Matt wants to, once every couple weeks on a show, he'll talk about what is happening. So it's just a couple guys trying different stuff in Linux and having a little bit of fun. And I'm going to basically shoot them this link and ask them if any of these would be interesting. And there is one more I'm going to bring in this show that I'm going to ask them if they want to try, because I don't want to even waste my time on full-featured desktop operating systems, because my logic is you spend most of your time trying to learn the full-featured desktop instead of the operating system. I don't want to learn the ins and outs of Plasma, because I'm never going to use Plasma. And everything you learn about Plasma, they're going to change in 6 months or 8 months, so you can learn it all over again. You might as well run Windows in that case, in my logic. I want to use something that is simple, that is basic, that has the old idea that Linus Torvalds said back in around 2007, 2008. The ideal operating system gets out of your way and lets you use programs. That's what I want out of my operating system. And I find most of the lighter, smaller Linux systems do a more efficient job of just letting me run applications instead of worrying about endless, mindless, nonstop configurations of theming and icon size and colors of desktops and background wallpapers and thicknesses of borders and all this pointless stuff that really does mean nothing in the end of the day when you're doing your workflow. But so I thought this was a good link. I'm going to shoot them, see what they think. This was another link that I literally bookmarked for myself for a couple reasons. This was on medium.freecodecamp.org. So it's a Medium posting, Medium, the blog site, and it is a beginner's guide to surviving the Linux shell. I will say this: I'm not the most efficient fella at a prompt. More than a couple of things, I have to rely on my history because I don't know what I'm doing, or more than a couple of times, I gotta search something that people might consider to be simple. I still find myself searching. It's just because it doesn't stick with the memory sometimes, so I got to look it up. So I bookmarked this. I'm going to play with it. And I love the fact that the very beginning of this article by a guy's name I can't pronounce, Mohan, he has a quote from Steve Wozniak, and it is, "All the best people in life seem to like Linux." That's a quote from Steve Wozniak. And I'll say, Steve, guess what? You are correct. Okay. I want to just highlight a little bit in this article. He basically goes through what is the command line, what is the shell, why is the shell. But like one of the very first things that he says is, if you use the shell, you will begin to know much more about the operating system. Now, a new Linux user might not completely understand, but if you go into a GUI application, pick any GUI application, whether it be like a IRC chat application, whether it be an email application, a browser, a word processor, a graphics editor, or anything else, anytime that application is doing anything to the file system, whether it's saving a picture, opening a text file, moving a file across the network, displaying things on screen, almost anything that can be done in an application that's doing anything outside the application is actually using some basic Linux commands to get things done. And the logic is, if there's a command that will let me create a file, why am I going to reinvent the wheel? The code's already there. I just create a GUI application that can then take advantage of those backends. So because of that, and the functionality that's built into the bash shell, which is the normal terminal that you open up on a Linux system, the functionality in that terminal is nearly insane. And the real truth of it is, you get more functionality, you get more versatility, you get more choice, you get more depth in choice when you use the terminal. For instance, I will give you is you can use the terminal to install applications. You can use the terminal to remove applications. You can use the terminal to search for applications. You can use the terminal to clean up the install cache. You can use the terminal to fix broken applications. You can use the terminal to reconfigure applications. You can do everything regarding applications inside the terminal. Then when you open up your GUI application, like the software updater or your software center in most Linux distributions, you actually have a loss in functionality. Yes, it might be a little bit easier to use the first time that you use it, but what you gain in convenience, you lose in functionality. So if you take the time to learn some of the basic commands, you will have a much more powerful interface when you go to install applications or uninstall applications than you would have in a GUI application. That's a general example. It's not completely correct for every application, but I can tell you a huge amount of the applications you lose functionality, and that's just the honest goodness truth. Some other examples of what you can do in the shell is it very easily control remote computers or servers. And I will say that's the advantage to working in the shell. If I'm working on a shell on my local computer and then I connect to a computer right next to me or a server in another building or to a DigitalOcean droplet via SSH, it's like I'm using the exact same shell. So there's nothing more to learn. Once I learn how to administrate my system, I'm well on my way to understanding how to administrate that other system and that other server and that other server. So that's why it's really important in my belief to really at least comprehend how to use this shell. You can install Arch Linux without anyone's help. That is the stupidest example I've ever heard in my life. The Arch Wiki. If you can read and you can open up the Arch Wiki, you don't need anybody's help to do anything in Arch, because Arch is the over-documenting thing. Anything you can do in Arch, somebody's documented it, and they put it up on the Arch Wiki, and as long as you comprehend what versions that you have on your system, you will always know exactly what to do. You don't need anybody's help. So that's the most worst example I've ever seen in my life. You can get paid to configure and administrate Linux server. Okay, I guess if the only thing important in your life is money, sure, yeah, I guess. I will say this. They also go through some basic commands. They also mention stuff like the Linux Bible in this article. This is not a short article. So this is something I did bookmark just for myself. So when I hear newer people talking about, what can I do in the shell? Why can I use the terminal? Kind of thing. I'm going to send them this link. And I do have a direct link to the Linux Bible, which I will say I have looked at, but it's definitely a little bit more advanced than myself. Next thing I want to talk about real quick, right after this short intermission that people who download won't hear, hopefully. Okay, next one I'm going to bring up is on Linux Journal. It's called Beaker, the Decentralized Read-Write Browser. I have no idea why it's called the Decentralized Read-Write Browser. To me, that's a very nonsensical thing. That's like saying freshly frozen. It's either fresh or it's frozen. It makes no sense. It's like parking on the driveway or driving on the parkway. Decentralized read-write browser. Okay. This to me is an example of just how naive, just how dense, just how so many other Linux podcasts out there do not even attempt to see things through. Either they do not have the experience under their belt, they do not have the common sense under their belt, or they basically didn't think about it, or they don't want to admit it in public. I don't know, but you have to decide for yourself on what you think their logic is, because I heard more than a couple Linux podcasts tout this as being something fantastic and great and privacy and freedom and all this other fist-pumping stuff. The gist of it is this is a peer-to-peer internet where I can hypothetically create content and then share it with only specific users. It's a peer-to-peer. It's a non-hosted environment. Okay. I don't know anybody who has a brain who thinks this is a good thing. I think this is actually quite a horrible thing. Now, quick diversion. This is right after St. Patrick's Day. Just a couple days. But I still have more beer. We had a horrible shooting in New Zealand. We just had another shooting in the Netherlands that were bad. All of it bad. one of the things that the New Zealand government has decided to do is to not say the guy's name who did it, to not give him any publicity. I think that's actually kind of smart. One of the things that came out was Facebook had a hard time blocking and deleting. It was something like over 1 million uploads of the video because the guy had like a first-person camera on him. They had a hard time stopping 1 million plus uploads of that video. Freedom comes at a cost, is what I'm going to say. Freedom comes at a severe cost. Freedom is not free. Freedom, it's painful as hell. Freedom means you have to be ready, willing, and able to accept a lot, is what I'm going to say. Whole lot. You have a decentralized read-write browser where it's a peer-to-peer connection. That means you can easily have very opinionated people uploading content of a very similar nature and sharing it everywhere. Okay, you might say to yourself, that's not that bad. I don't know you, but you might be saying that. You might be saying, well, it's a video, and, if somebody else wants to see the kind of bad things that can happen, they should have the right to watch that video. I'm not going to say you're wrong. I will say I don't agree with you. I don't think this is the kind of video that should be freely available for anybody to watch and basically get overexcited by. This is the kind of video I think should be for research purposes, for institutions trying to understand psychopathy, trying to understand mental disorders. They should have access to the video, yes. I'm not sure, like, people I work with should have access to that video because, I don't want them to feel like this is something they could do. But let's take it a step further because, the internet always takes it a step further. You have this decentralized peer-to-peer web. Wouldn't this be like a haven for child porn? I mean, we just had the YouTube thing. If you're not aware, YouTube had people uploading videos, very non-sexual videos of their kids sitting with their cameras, talking and playing and doing other things. But it wasn't the intent of the video to be nothing more than just a kid talking. That was the only intent by the video. But what was being used by the video were perverts posting times in the comments to where, like, saying you could see like a lot of thigh in this clip, and it's like a 6-year-old girl. Is that kind of content okay to be on this decentralized web? Because that's the kind of content you're going to introduce to this decentralized web, from everything I can tell. Are you okay with that? If you're okay with that, if you really are okay with that, then don't say anything to those other podcasts that claim this is fantastic. This is just what we need. And you should ask them when they say we, who are you talking to? You got a mouse in your pocket? You sure in the hell ain't talking to somebody like me? I know that. Yes, I want a decentralized web where I have control and it's me and my friends, to where we can host our own content, like content from like a Linux lug, or like content on a game that we have, or a clip from YouTube that we downloaded that we liked. That was a debate between two people. But anytime you introduce these kinds of things in 2019 moving forward, we have to, as a people, literally think, how can this be used for bad? Can this be used for bad? If this can be used for bad, should we do it? Should we? And if we should, maybe we should talk about it first. And if we can, then is there a way we can stop certain things from happening on it? Which basically means censorship. Or if we can't stop it, is there a way that we can try to at least restrict people to view it? Like kids. Is there any way we can be sure that kids don't accidentally launch this up and see nasty stuff? And I'm not going to say I have an answer to it. I'm a fan of freedom. I'm also a fan of trying to protect kids. I'm also a fan of trying to protect psychopaths from seeing things that might make them feel a little bit more enabled to act a little bit more psychopathic like. So I'm not supporting a decentralized read-write browser. I'm not. Because there needs to be some kind of preventions in place as either a administrator of it, or I can literally make sure that my kids don't have access to it, period. And I'm not going to sit over my kid's shoulder 24 hours a day. I'm not going to sit there and go through with a fine-tooth comb everything on my kids' devices. When I was a kid, I had personal freedom. I try to make sure my kids have some personal freedom as well. This is not Germany, 1940. I'm not monitoring everything my kids do. So I need to try to make sure that the public internet is at least a little bit safer for innocent people. Just because you might want to monitor everything your kid does doesn't mean every other parent in the universe has that same luxury or even knowledge or experience or understanding of how to do. And because they don't, doesn't mean they should suffer just because you feel like you shouldn't have to. Period. Next link is a NSA reveals a tool and puts it into the open source. It's Greta, I want to say. It's a power cyber security tool. It's a decompiler. They call this all kinds of stuff. All this is a decompiler, okay? And I say all this is a decompiler, but okay. Here's the logic of it. I'm writing an application in C++. I write the applications. It's all in clear text. A, B, C, D, E, F, G, E, H, yeah, and it's all letters. I then make a library, LMNOP, QRST. It's all in letters. I make all this stuff. It's all in clear text to where I could humanly read about it. It's not rocket science. Then I hit compile. When I hit compile, it turns it into zeros and ones. A session, it turns into code. It turns into bytecode. Okay. And then I can publish that bytecode with some assurance that at least my intellectual property is hidden behind this mask of illusion called bits and bytes and ones and zeros and hexadecimal values kind of thing. Okay. What this decompiler does is literally you take executable code, you push it through this, and what comes out the other side is clear text. Now, I've used plenty of decompilers in the past, is what I'm going to say. All for legally purposes, I can assure you, cough, cough. yeah, sure. But most of them, and I've literally ran them against code I created just so I could see how they look like. A lot of them got a lot of stuff right, but they never quite got stuff in the right order or in the right placement or gave things the right label. And the way that they did it, it definitely meant you could understand what was going on, but it definitely took a work. It definitely took effort. I took a look at some of the screenshots of this tool and how this tool works. And I can tell you guys this. If they're putting it out in the open source, what this means is the NSA essentially deems this software near worthless. Okay. What I mean is they feel like other people out there have sufficiently advanced solutions that come up to around the level of compliance of this application. So their logic is, let's put this application out in the open. Let's put all the code out there in the open, and let's see if people can improve on our platform enough. Okay. It wouldn't shock me if it's partially just to see what can come of it, partially as a recruiting tool, because they have the code up on GitHub, and if the right person looks at the code, likes the code, forks the code, and they like what they see, they can then contact that guy and, offer him a job. Wouldn't shock me if it's as simple as that. But if they release this code in the open, I'm also sure now they have something 10 times better, something much better that's out there. But if you have like old executables from companies that don't exist anymore, and you would like to see how they work for one reason or another, don't, unless you're okay, because technically I'm pretty sure you'll be breaking the law like me. You could take the executable, punch it through this compiler, and you can get an idea of how applications are written and how they're wrote. If you do any development at all, and you find out this other application that you like, hey, it's written the same thing that I write in, but it's in a compiled format, in a binary type format, I would then definitely encourage you on your own time, download this tool, decompile the application, and see what you can pick up out of it. I will tell you, when I did this in the past, there were a thing or two I learned about coding. So it definitely helped me become a better coder, and it has a really cool image artwork. It's like a snake dragon infinity symbol, so that makes it even cooler. Next link I want to talk about is from Linux.com. Myo Linux, a lightweight distribution with an old school approach. And it's MIYO Linux, all one word. I am going to give, this is the other link I'm going to give to MRP, see if they want to take a look at this one. And the real reason this one caught my eye, it's just one thing. This is a desktop operating system, quote unquote new, that's running i3 tiling window manager. Awesome window manager and i3 are two of my favorite, mainly because I can understand their configuration files. They're basically human readable configuration files. And for 99.999% of the things I do when I'm using that desktop environment, I don't need a mouse for. The only time I absolutely have to have a mouse is like there's one menu screen where I have to move up to the top right and click the mouse. And then some applications, there are certain things where I really do have to have a mouse, like doing graphics work. But those two alone just made me want to check it out. What I didn't even understand is it says this lightweight distribution is based on DEVUAN, Duvan. I've never even heard of Duvan. And that was the other thing that literally just caught my eye. It basically says Duvan is a GNU Linux fork of Debian without systemd. Well, that explains it. Okay. i3, I'm pretty sure i3 is most compliant with older architecture, like not Wayland with Xorg. So I'm going to guess that has something to do with them having no systemd in it. I'm not a lover or hater of systemd. It is what it is. But just because this one is different, this is one I am going to load up in a VM and just see how it is. And honestly, load up the i3 config and just see what their config looks like. I might learn something or two how to better configure my desktop. Again, that's Myo Linux, MIYOLINUX. If you are at all interested in i3, I'll definitely encourage you to check it out. And last and absolutely not least, the next one I want to talk about is Clear Linux. I do believe Ike has been spotted. His name has been spotted in GitHub repos making commits to Clear Linux. So he's still, I think, apparently working for Intel, which is good. I'll just put it like this. Again, Eric Ardini, unbelievably great guy. Has very bad health things going on right now. Ike disappeared. It isn't like I went, tried to contact him personally, because who the hell am I? But I didn't hear from him for a while in any medium, and I got genuinely worried. Is this a health thing? Is this a life thing? Is something bad going on with him? Then I see his name on Clear Linux commits through GitHub, so I feel better. He's just busy. He's making money. Hopefully, he's making money so he can retire early and then spend full time doing what he wants, when he wants, how he wants, why he wants, kind of thing. But this article over at Phronix caught my eye. It says, Clear Linux has a goal to get 3 times more upstream components in their distro. One of the numbers that caught me off guard in this article was, it said, I thought this was the one that said, I thought it said something like, the typical Linux distro has something like 50,000 items in its repository, and where they have like 30,000. So it was a lot more than I originally thought that was available in this distribution, or bundles. They have bundles here. It also supports flat packs, which is always good. You have to support in 2019 flat packs or snap. I don't care which one you support. I really don't. I don't care which one you like. I really don't. All I care is when I load up a distribution, does whatever that distribution person pick work. And if it works, good, it works. That's all I care about. So I do believe Clear Linux is poised to become, in the next year and a half, 2 years, a huge, like, number 3 distro, pushing in on that number 2 slot in popularity, partially because Ike's working on it. Everything Ike works on gets better, period. That's all you need to know. Everything he touches gets better, period. It does. Clear Linux is already one of the highest optimized Linux distributions, aka you get speed. You get as much speed out of it with little work and configuration in up front. Because there is like 2 or 3 distributions out there where supposedly you can get great performance, but you have to build every package from source. So like just installing LibreOffice can take 20 hours. I cannot remember the name of the distribution right now. Sorry, but Clear Linux is not counting those distributions. Once you get those source distributions out there, we have to build everything from scratch. Clear Linux was like by far one of the highest rated distributions when they do benchmarking. And I know benchmarks only test benchmarking. They don't test real world performance. But to me, it's a general indicator of what can be. And I can tell you now, in the next year and a half to 2 years, Clear Linux could be your go-to distribution when you just need a fast, snappy distribution and to have it just work, where you're not worried about, can I get X package on it? Can I run this game on it, kind of thing? Can I get it to just work? And Clear Linux is basically Intel, okay? Just in case you didn't know it. Clear Linux is basically Intel's Linux distribution. And with the discrete GPUs coming from Intel, okay, don't be shocked if you want to get a cheaper graphics card to run mid stuff good. If you run it on Clear Linux, it will run really good. So that might be a reason right there why Clear Linux might gain popularity, just because of the discrete GPU market. It could enable it to actually be a contender, you know. And that to me is really interesting. If you want to get in contact with the show, please do not forget a podcast at Linux for the rest of us. You can also send me a voicemail at 707-6-Podnut. Please do not forget you can support Eric Ardini and his GoFundMe and help support his family. Every little bit you can help will definitely be appreciated. Bar none, no second guessing. I definitely want to thank everyone for their support. Thank everyone who comes out to the Mattermost server. Thanks everyone coming out to the Discord server. Thanks everyone who come out to the IRC server. Thanks everybody for their emails. And thank everybody for coming out to the live stream. With that, and I will just remind everyone, please never ever forget, if you do not have root, you do not know who does. And we will talk to everyone again, hopefully in less than a month. Take it easy.